Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? I hope you guys are having an amazing Friday. It is Friday, March 29th, 2024. Wherever you are tuning in from, thank you and welcome to the front line of the fight for the freedom of humanity. And as you guys all know, this every Friday we are getting together with Bryce Wade of New World Precious Metals and so many other things to talk about conspiracies and reality and finances and all things going around that we need to pay attention to in this insane and trying times. Bryce, welcome back. We're doing things, evolving this on the fly, and tonight we're going to be kind of doing that a little bit again here. And you've got a tool that we're going to get plugged into the community, shall we say, a whole bunch more than what we've been doing so far. So Bryce is going to pull this up here, I think, and we're gonna give you guys a rundown, and we're going to be running a poll, I think, during the time of this stream, and the idea is we'll explain to you what it is, how you guys can get involved in using it from wherever you're tuning in from, and we can kind of develop how we can give you guys better resources, better information, better advice, better answers, and help everybody in the community get ahead of the game, shall we say. So I'm going to drop a link into the chat here. Bryce, are you able to pull that up there so we can share it on the screen?
Yeah, just let me explain it for a second and where
Okay.
this comes from and why I want to do this. So, the big thing that really bothers me about our society and Western civilization in general is that we're supposed to have a democracy, and I think I mentioned this on a previous episode. But democracy is supposed to be one voice, one vote for one person. We obviously don't have that, right? And one of the reasons that we don't have that is that there's a disconnect between our leaders or our representatives for a given constituency and the actual constituents or the people that they're supposed to represent. That process really looks like, hey, I'm up for election, give me your votes and I'll do stuff for you. Big thumbs up and cross your fingers and hope it goes well. And that's pretty much the end of it until the next election, which is an absurdity, especially since we have, instant communication on the internet right now, right? Like, so if I was to put out a poll right now, that would be obviously more accurate than the nonsense that they use at Ipsos Reid or whatever, because I talked to 1,000 people, that must represent all of Canada, right? And so what I really want out of this process, and I'll explain the tool in a second, is that the ability for a given community to communicate with itself outside of itself and organize within itself to accomplish goals is a really fundamental necessity for civilization, right? And so any given community that you have within a civilization needs to be able to organize itself and do things with the people and the resources and the ideas and whatever that has, right? And we've really been blessed growing up in the age that we have instant communication and that we're able to do that more or less, but we don't have any of that organizational power connected to our government. And so what I want to kind of show with this, and the reason why I want to show you this, is that we need an election. Okay. These idiots that are running our country into the ground and destroying it from the inside out need to be removed. And because I can't think of a better example of a more incompetent bunch of people that have done more damage to our country in our history. And it's because of their ideology, it's because of their incompetence, it's because of their corruption, and there's no accountability. And that's really the key here, is that if there was accountability, these idiots wouldn't be in charge right now, right? And so what I want is an actual democracy. And so without having an actual sense of what that should mean, how are we ever going to get one, and how are we ever going to live in one if we don't have an actual lived experience of what that should look like, right? And so what this is really supposed to be, and I'll bring it up on the screen now, is a start to that process. And there's a specific reason why. And that reason is that you can see here when you bring it up. So Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, and with the support of the NDP, are now changing our election laws. So they're going to increase the availability and ability to use mail-in voting. Mail-in voting should be banned, should be completely illegal. It's an absolute absurdity that we even have it at all, right? And the reason that it's an absurdity is because you can't verify anything. There's no accountability. Voting is supposed to be one person, one vote for one person. Or one voice and one vote for one person, right?
Right.
And if you have a bunch of mail-in voting apparatus, how is anybody going to verify that those are the right people, that they were qualified, that they're not an illegal immigrant? Now that we have so many, we brought in 1 million people into this country in the last 9 months. Where are these people? Some of these contests are decided by 1,000 votes. Where did 1 million people go in Canada? It's insane. And so this is kind of one of my core really ideas that really need to be pushed forward, in my opinion, because even if we do have an election, right, and this is one of the questions that I want to ask everybody here, do you believe that our system is 100% secure or has 0% fraud? To have 0% fraud is impossible in this system, because if anybody can send in a vote through email, what if they send two? What if they just copy and paste one? What if there's no process to validate and secure our elections? It's being created in this way to 100% steal it. That's my opinion, right? And so to kind of deal with this, we have to be able to organize and make decisions a lot quicker than what they're being done. Like, just if anybody watches some of the stuff that comes out of Parliament every day, it's infuriating. Like, it's insane that these people are in charge of our country. And so this is the purpose. And so what this is called Miro, MIRO.com. Okay, so you can go there yourself. I downloaded this. It's free to use initially. I pay for it because I have a whole bunch of boards, but I highly recommend that if anybody wants to organize their thoughts, it's a very visual way to do it, right? So I can pull memes into this. I can move stuff around. I can put basically anything in here and map it out and move it around like a whiteboard. That's what it is. It's digital whiteboard, right? And so I want to utilize this because it has a feature in it called voting. So I can run a vote. So if anybody wants to join this and take a vote on some of this stuff, it's basically real time and real world voting, and that shows me and shows us and shows everybody that's watching how we as a community feel about a given subject, right? So there's a couple big things that I want to talk about in the next couple weeks. One of them is the carbon tax, right? Because this is the dumbest, most blatantly corrupt, moronic tax in the country right now. And that's saying a lot, because what's her face in Toronto wants to tax the rain that falls on roofs on a given property. I don't even know.
I would go so far as to call it the most provocative, abusive insult to our intelligence and our society and our economy that could ever have been dreamt up by these psychopathic lunatics. The fact that they're giving themselves a raise, patting themselves on the back, while they're putting a 23% hike screw back into the people, I think is the most obscene abuse of power in modern so-called democratic history.
Yeah, and there's that old saying that taxation without representation is theft, and that's essentially what's happening now. They want to tax people for rain falling on their house.
Yep, and that's
Absolutely.
Toronto, and we're going to see that coming across the board. One of the posts that I had pulled up earlier for us to talk about was, I think, exactly what you alluding to, progressing down that train of thought.
Yeah, exactly, and like there's another old saying that you can't tax your way into prosperity, right? And what our government is doing, and this kind of flows into maybe one of the other things that we want to cover, is that if you take away the vast majority of the resources that people have in their pocket to spend in the economy, not only does that slow down and reduce the amount of money that's going through the system and moving around the system, which is supposedly what causes inflation. It's not. But that also reduces the amount of money that people can do things with, right? Because if the government prints $1 bajillion and they're like, oh, we need more money. Look at all the things. We need more money, more money, more money for all the people that we hired, for all the stupid things that we did, for all the corruption that we engaged in, right? Well, you're just literally taking my money to pay off the garbage that you put forward in the first place, right? That is not a productive thing to do.
I think they have actively gauged and measured our response and activity and used that as a measuring stick to say they have too much money yet. They're fighting back too hard. We better hit them more. We got to cost them more. We got to extract more of their money out of their pockets because they're too mouthy.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me most about the carbon tax specifically is how moronic the math is. Like these people are literally like, "Oh, it's good for you. It's neutral. You actually make more money," which is a bold-faced lie. Like if you can't show me the math that you're using and show me the analysis that you use to get to the conclusions, why do I have to believe you? Right? It's ridiculous. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that I want people to be more collaboratory, right? I want this community that we're trying to build here to have more access and more ability to use your skills, right? So there is 338 people in Parliament, right, that are supposed to be the head of the country and
The
doing stuff with our
management
name.
team.
The management team, they are garbage at this, and the way that we can know that is by looking around. Canada is on a decline. We're almost in a recession. Technically, we've already been in one. We have world war that's happening all around the world that we've spent billions of dollars on, got nothing for it. We've doubled our debt. Like I could go on and on and on, right? And so what I'm really driving at here is that nobody is going to come save us. Nobody. Everybody that you can think of, Elon Musk and all these other, that literally does not matter. Nobody is going to come save us. We have to be the people that are working towards the solutions that we feel are necessary, and to fix problems on a macro scale, right? Beyond your local community, beyond your city, beyond your province, beyond your country. It takes a large amount of people to do so, right? And in a democracy, we're supposed to be all able to all stand up and be like, you know what? That's unacceptable. Not doing it no more. Bust on out of here, my friend. But we can't because our government has put in place regulations and systems to prevent that from happening, right? And so if we're going to build solutions to all of these problems, we have to have the ideas, we have to talk about them, we have to decide on things, we have to take actions, and ultimately we have to set the goal of what the results are that we want. And so at the first episode I think that we did, I talked about the four things of change, which is questions, answers, actions, results, right? Those four things, right? So we have to ask some questions, we have to find some answers, we have to take some actions, and eventually we'll get results, right? That's how that process works. So I want people in this community to be a part of that process. And one of the first things that I want to leverage this idea on is how abysmally stupid the carbon tax is and how it should be repealed immediately, stopped, and investigated for all the fraud and nonsense that has come along with it. So that's kind of the backdrop of what I'm going to be doing. So with this Miro board, and I'm going
And
to
this
have
is
all of us.
what
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
want to point out here for everybody out there is we're going to be talking about a lot of things, but the foundation of this discussion here now is providing you guys with knowledge and insight on a tool, something to help get involved. Figure out this new tool to help you guys help the rest of the country get coordinated and organized to fight back. Don't get hung up on the micro of the subject, this, that, A to Z. We're going to cover a bazillion of them, but get familiar with how we can get better organized, and Miro's a great tool for us to do that with. And this is where people can get started, put the training wheels on how to get your teams together on working together on something bigger and more. So this is an entry level intro, guys, and these are things that Bryce is going to help us get the training wheel bicycle moving on how we can get better organized.
Yeah, and so what this will, and I'm gonna have all of the information, and I'm gonna load information into this as I go along, right? So what this will essentially work out to is I use this for my daily management of myself, right? So every day I have a bunch of things that I'm looking to do, stuff that I've accomplished, things that I see, right? Think of this board as an eyeball on the internet, right? So you look at something every day that you're on the internet, right? You look at things, right? In the what do we call this? The database of the internet. You have um, a digital. I don't want to call it a digital ID. It's not exactly what it is, but a digital fingerprint of where you've gone, what you've done, what you've looked at, and the information that you've
I
perceived.
call that
Right?
the avatar.
Yeah, yeah. So you have a an avatar on the internet, and the internet looks at you and it says this avatar looked at this thing, right? So this is a kind of a way that when you see something important, you can save it and put it here so that it's organized in a way that you can go back to and look at it. So if I went back and looked at my last few weeks, I have a whole bunch of posts like this about stuff that I felt was really important. Like I got really pissed off watching. There's a meme. Actually, here, let me actually pull it up. I'll show you what this where this came from, because it is this one. Yeah, this one. So, like I said, I can just pull something onto this, and now it's in here, and now it's saved on this network. But this post that I made, so this 44%, this is what the carbon tax is doing to people. This is how absurd our government is, right? Look at this. So the tax on so the carbon tax alone, this guy paid was 37%, $6,784. With all of the taxes put together, it was $7,600 per month. And this is 44% of the bill, right? And they're trying to tell us that this is good for our economy. It's absolutely insane, and I can't stand it anymore. So what needs to happen with this is that these idiots that keep saying all of these absolute lies need to be called out and cataloged and proven. Every time I see these people post on Twitter now, I post this because I'm like, you guys are lying through your teeth. Can't stand it anymore.
I've really adopted and kind of made it my own a quote here recently in my idea of wanting to do this show is kind of exactly on that principle, but nothing confirms the truth faster than an official denial, an official narrative. Only confirms us, correct every single time, because it's all insanity and word salad and gobbledygook and lies to cover crimes and corruption. And this is, you said it, nobody's coming to save us. It is up to us. And again, I want to reiterate here, guys, is what Bryce is showing us here is Miro, a tool that can help us come up with solutions on our own, because it is up to us at the end of the day, ultimately. So, get it together. This is one of the ways we can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to answer somebody in the chat, so Marnie just said this. So we need these things to happen on paper too, though. If they crash at all, it no longer exists. Absolutely, 100% agree. But you can't work on ancient technology, which is pen and paper, and expect that you get modern day speed, right? Like the world operates instantly now. Like you can communicate instantly with people if you want to, and we have to have some sort of system until it crashes that we are able to do that. And kind of the way, and this actually, her comment actually goes to a deeper philosophical and logistical idea, is that you know that term keeping it on the rails. You got to keep it on the rails. Yeah. So the way that I look at that, the meaning of that in modern times is think of each rail as a thing that you are doing in parallel, right? So on the one side, you are going to work every day, you're making money, you're planning for the future, putting money in your RSP or whatever, like being a good little citizen. And on the other one is preparing for the downfall of civilization and collapse, because that's what's happening, right? So you can't, if you go off the rail too far on each side, you fall out. Like if you go too far into society, you're not preparing for the inevitability that's coming. If you go too far into one side, you're not dealing with what's happening now and today. I would much prefer that our civilization be saved and not collapse, rather than try and rebuild it after it collapses, right? But I'm not convinced that that's not gonna that we're gonna be able to do that, and it won't collapse. But I'm gonna do everything that I can to prevent it from happening.
We didn't get a choice on the complexity of the times that we live in right now, and surviving the insanity and being in a position to ride it out in better ways and come out the other side, or to be in a position, all of these things, we have to deal with a lot more than our grandparents did perhaps. But the reality of it is we have to use the tools that are available to us when and where and while we have them. And this is actually kind of creating part of the problem, because the better and faster we get more organized, the more disruptive it is to them, and the more out of control they get. So we're kind of, it's a tug of war, and we're the better we get at resisting and organizing and coming up with solutions, the more afraid they are. And we're kind of looking at a point here now where not everybody's going to get where we're at or where we're going, and we have to be able to get the people that are, the more advanced classes together that get it, and get them working together. We don't need 100% of the population to stabilize our country. We just need 15% that is working and pulling together to end the insanity. And over the next little while, guys, and this is key, being and working effectively outside of their reach and control is going to be critical and key. Hence, why we're introducing alternative tools and methodologies. You're going to see a lot more new stuff coming your way over the next couple of weeks. And this is why, I mean, because this is where we're effective, and this is where we need to be. And we're trying to help you all get on board within your own capacities. We've been piling up a lot of resources for everybody, and it's time to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this year, like 2024, is going to be a watershed year in the sense that there's so much stuff happening that is coming to a head. World War III is popping off. Like they're going to be putting boots on the ground from NATO in Ukraine, which is a direct confrontation with Russia, as if it isn't already, which it is. Right? There's all of the economic problems. So I've really been waiting to see what the fallout of the funding vehicle that they created to bail out the banks last year. That ended on March 11th, which was 2 weeks ago. So we're gonna start seeing the effect of that. And what I brought up here is somebody else posted this on Twitter, and I grabbed it. One of the other reasons I like Twitter. But this basically says is that the UN put forth the carbon tax to raise money for their climate change things, but they're essentially taking our money extrajudicial. So let me put it another way. This policy was implemented by our government on behalf of an international government that was unelected, that is negatively affecting our people and our country and our economy. There's a word for that that I won't say right now. But the point that I'm making is that this money is being stolen from us, right? This tax is stupid. It doesn't work. The money doesn't go to doing what it says it does. It's literally just going in their coffers to pay for the ungodly amounts of money that they have printed in our name, right? And so this is a very simple, very obvious, very easy to identify and get people amped about, because it's visibly, easily calculatable offense to your pocketbook, right? Every aspect of our society uses oil and gas, right? To move anything anywhere, to do anything, it takes power and it takes fuel, right? And so if you tax that fuel, you have taxed the entire economy all at once. And this is one of the reasons that inflation went up so high, because the expense to move things around went up, right? We are a net exporter, and Justin Trudeau has said no to selling our resources to other places on the planet, our allies, for God's sakes. And I can't think of a better or easier thing that everybody should be against almost universally. The only people that support this tax are the people that either don't understand math or that are so scared of the climate crisis that they don't understand how it works or what it does. Because I can't think of a worse way to solve a problem by just like giving a blank check to the government and cross your fingers and hope they do something about it. And this is literally, as they're doing this, they sold our water bombers that fight fires to Greece.
The people don't understand how close and how closely connected starvation is to carbon tax, and starvation doesn't care what your pronouns are or your political insights are. It doesn't care. This is literally putting taking a leg off of the food and beyond that. I mean, I'm trying to come up with make this as simple as people need to understand. It doesn't matter what our differences are. You are correct. This carbon tax and all that it entails, with the last vote in Parliament, it went through. They didn't decided not to scrap it. Every single person in that parliament that voted to keep this thing needs to be held accountable for the devastation that they have said that we want and lied to the world about.
Yeah, exactly. And I think ultimately what this will come down to is an upgrade to how our democracy functions. This is ultimately what we're talking about. What we have is obsolete, it's corrupt, it's incompetent, and it's being run by morons. That is not a recipe for success, right? And I'm so sick of listening to these people just lie through their teeth at us. Okay, if you can't show me the math and you can't show me the science of what you did, and it's not actually what's the word, externally verifiable and third party certified, and like actually use the scientific method rather than the I paid these guys money to make it for me method, I don't agree. And why should we have to suffer the incompetence of these people putting in these moronic policies, right? And so what I'm showing here and what I think is really important is the other side of this thing. So if we're going to oppose something that's nice and easy and be like, yo, let's get a win on the board, everybody, let's scrap the carbon tax. Like Pierre says, axe the tax. I don't think he goes far enough. Let's axe the carbon tax, period. The entire tax, all of that money, which is $20 odd billion. I finally heard a number from somebody. $20 billion has been pulled out of our pockets. And
Mhm.
that doesn't include the actual harm that it's doing to the economy by taxing energy itself. Okay.
I
So
think the exact testimony was 20.2 billion taken out, but Freeland had said it's self balancing, but there was only 2.2 billion missing.
yeah, like these people are idiots. And it's a finance minister. She literally is part of the World Economic Forum. These people are insane, right? And so the only way that we're eventually going to fix this problem is by kicking out the idiots that shouldn't be there, right? And so this is what this is. This is what I'm showing is that eventually we need a better voting system. And what one of the things that do you listen? Did you look into ancient history at all ever, like Greeks and Roman times and all that sort of stuff?
Too much.
Yeah. So, but not a lot of people know this, and I tend to talk about it a lot. But back in ancient Greece and Athens, right, they had this process where any of the citizens, which is essentially the senators or the people that held land, they were able to on one of their little tablets or whatever, you just write somebody's name on there, and you can throw it in the town square in the middle. And if any person got a minimum amount
That's
of
how they
votes.
executed Socrates.
Yeah, no, he got trialed by the government, but he wasn't removed in this way. So this, if you get if I think it was 50%, if 50% of the names were the same, then that person was expelled or banned from society. They were just completely removed, got exiled. You're out of here, bud. Right? And I think something similar, basically a recall election, needs to happen with all of our representatives at all levels. I don't even care what stripe they are at this point. If that person doesn't represent that constituency, they shouldn't be there, period, right? And we are a very disconnected society in that sense, in that we don't come into our constituencies and be like, hey everybody, what do we care about? Is this guy representing us? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Let's have a talk. It just doesn't happen. Like there's no connection.
That precedent was set in 1991 with the Little Child versus the People case, and after that, that precedent set that no elected official could be held accountable to their constituents. So that was
Yeah, so we
when
should change that. That is absurd. So,
100%.
so how are we a representative democracy then? What?
Right? The sham of democracy is the in layman's terms, it means the largest mob rules.
Yeah, but it's not. That's absolutely not true. That's what it's supposed to be, but we don't have that. We're run by an oligarchy. The oligarchy gets to decide what's up,
I
and
call
they
it a syndicate.
yeah, syndicate, oligarchy. Ultimately, all of these different garchies, like so, there's an oligopoly, plutocracy, corporatocracy, aristocracy. Ultimately, they're all oligarchies because it's a small group of people that run the show. That's literally what it is,
Yep.
right? And so,
Yep.
from that perspective, if we want to have anything else or any hope in hell of kicking these idiots out, we have to have a system that replaces it. And that's really what I want to get to. I can stand here all day talking about problems, but unless we're moving towards an alternative, we're trying to build something different, and we're trying to create solutions, it's not going to matter, right? I got furious when the convoy happened, and it was, I can tell you the exact moment that I was like, "That's freaking it, bro." And it was when the convoy went to Ottawa, right? And they were there for a couple days, and they came out and made a press release like, "Listen, we'll go away. We just want to talk. We just want to show our evidence. We just want to have an open discourse and an open debate about these ideas that we feel are hurting not only our bodies and our people and our communities, but are violating our constitutional rights." And the government flatly refused and said, "Get bent and sent in the boots." That is not what a
Yep.
democracy is supposed to be, and that's not what Canada is supposed to be. And so, if we want to reassert what Canada is supposed to be, making Canada great again, which is we have to build something different, because these idiots are never going to do that. They have stonewalled every investigation, every corruption committee, whatever that's happened, and right now they have the thing going on with the Winnipeg lab leak, which basically the Liberals protected a CCP military agent that took a whole bunch of data about Canadians back to China and essentially facilitated it. There's a there's another reason. There's another word for that, but I won't
They
say it here.
actively took part in a biological warfare program leveraged upon unsuspecting societies worldwide, creating economic chaos and devastation from on every corner of the planet. And Mr. Trudeau is reaped, and all of those cronies have reaped immense rewards for their roles in said crimes. And but that's just my humble opinion.
So if we all know, right? If we all can agree at the very least that this is not working, and maybe we believe that this is corruption, well, who is supposed to investigate this, right? Who is supposed to clean this mess up if we find out that there is a mess there? And you can't tell me that the group of people that are engaged in the corruption are the type of people that they're going to be like, no, no, we'll investigate ourselves. Yeah, yeah, real good, real strong. Yeah, we'll get right in there. And they've even said, even when they're like that, so we spend $20 billion a year now on outside consultants. One of them is McKinsey and Co. These bunch of morons, and they said like, hey, we found an extra $5 million in fraud. You found $5 million in fraud? What do you mean you found it? Like somebody reported it, or you went actively looking for it? And in either case, why is it there in the first place? Like you're supposed to be like managing our finances, and you come after us all the time for all the money that we should be paying you, but all of the money that you actually have, you can't manage enough to make sure that other people don't defraud the Canadian government. Like, how could you be more incompetent?
Well, and this, is exactly we're getting to where they're expecting us to get to, because they know that they've stolen and bled our country dry, and so now their only defense is to pretend that we are dangerous because we figured out we're going to own nothing and be unhappy, and that wasn't their plan. They wanted us all to be happy owning nothing.
Yeah. And this what it boils down to. They have told us repeatedly that this is what they want for us. I don't agree, and I know many of you watching don't agree as well. I know that you don't, Wayne. And if we're going to prevent that from happening, we need to be organized, as I say almost every time now. It is down to the ability for us to organize against these people that are doing this to us, whether or not we succeed or not. Because let me drive this point home too, is that they are actively attacking all of the farmers around the planet right now, right? The reason I keep talking about food and your ability to feed yourself is because in the coming years, there's going to be a global famine. They are creating it right now. It's been happening for the last couple of years. There is farmers being shut down all over the US, all over Canada, can't afford to do anymore. They tried to destroy all of Denmark, which is the breadbasket of Europe, right? Ukraine was a breadbasket that's basically an irradiated wasteland, more or less, with the war. It's not irradiated, but you know what I mean. And Russia's been taken off the market as well. So all of the breadbaskets on the planet, other than essentially Brazil, are all under attack. Right? China has bought every ounce of food they can get their hands on because they're preparing for war with us, right? So it's not hyperbole to say that these are going to be life-threatening problems, and our government is engaged in facilitating them. So
These
do
are
that with
things
what you will.
these are things I think that we can all agree upon. I mean, right from the fat emperor who I had on this week to former climate scientist yesterday. I've been screaming about this manufactured destabilization, manufactured starvation. These are all inevitables to what these guys are doing by intervening, destroying our capability to manufacture and grow, harvest, process, produce, and distribute. Those are all parts of the war being waged against us, making it illegal to grow food in your own garden. The intent, in your own yard, you can't grow food, but you can have grass, because that's what they tell you. It's just so beyond incredulously obvious that this is not going to get better if we don't change this. And I think it's time, in thinking about, talking about this here, Bryce, you've given me something that I need to expound on, even the way I describe things. There is no political solution is what something that I have said, but I cannot dismiss the impact of playing politics and changing the political system. It's a part of the greater war against humanity, and depending on politics alone leaves us no solution. We have to take our efforts, initiatives, and responsibility outside of the political system to recreate a political system that works. So maybe that helps, people adjust to this. Within the current system, there is no solution. We have to get out, rebuild, refix, and turn the ox cart into the Bugatti it should be.
Yeah, because if you really think about it from a political perspective, right? Politics, in its essence, is a really simple idea. It's an arena of ideas with people trying to represent the interests of people and implement ideas that we talk about for the goal of putting things into the future that we get to, right? So you're essentially coming into politics to be like, I've got these ideas. I've got these people that I represent, and we want to get over there, and this is how we're going to get there. It's basically those four aspects is what politics is supposed to be, right? And I somewhat agree, but somewhat disagree with the assertion, or the statement rather, that there's no political solution, because what Denmark showed is that if there's enough people that are amped up enough and that are organized enough, there is a political a solution. Because what's happened in Iceland in the past, there was the only country that arrested the bankers after the 2007 debacle, and the Dutch in the Netherlands, they formed a new party and they're the number one party now. They kicked out not all, but a whole bunch of the idiots that were running that show, and we have absolutely the power to do it ourselves. But that window is closing because they have brought in so many millions of people that they're eventually going to want to turn into voters, that if it doesn't happen this year, I don't think it's going to happen. And that's why I keep saying this, is that the opportunity to push that solution peacefully is closing. And
That's
if we want to avoid the violence, and I certainly do, because I like my country not burning down, then we got to get organized. We got to do something immediately.
I couldn't agree with you more, and it kind of lights my eyes up to hear you bring up the reference to Iceland, because most people don't understand what Iceland did, and they don't understand the mere basics of this. I was having a discussion earlier today in a meeting, but people are going to be forced to recognize at some point that the power absolutely is within our right and ability. And what Iceland actually did was understand jurisdiction, and they forced constitutional conventions, and they solved the problem, which was ultimately the only way that a nation gets recognized as a sovereign nation. People still think Canada is a sovereign nation. It is not. This sets the difference between de facto and sovereign nations. And here's the key thing that people don't know about what happens when you do that. When Iceland did that, The debt goes with the de facto criminals, de facto meaning unlawful. The unlawful government takes the debt that they've created with them and are held responsible for it. It's called odious debt. And this is ultimately, at the end of the day, the real solution within our peaceful means to solve all of this, and to be recognized peacefully by the world and not have blue helmets on us because this is a jurisdiction that they understand and recognize, because this is the same reason why Trudeau would never, or any prime minister of Canada currently, would have a position at the UN Security Council. We cannot, because we are not a sovereign nation. We are a de facto nation. This is a real thing, folks. But so many folks have muddied that water, that well of discussion, Bryce, that it makes it incredibly difficult to have and we don't have time to dance around all of the misinformation that's been generated about this for a number of years, because I've been, by the people that aren't informed, told I've been talking out of my butt or out of my tinfoil hat when I talk about this. But you bringing up Iceland, I mean, that is the exactly the last nation, and then did that in 2011. This isn't ancient history. It's not Roman history, guys.
No, and even then, I mean, there was a meme that I saw this week that was like the coins of the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, and the U.S. Empire, which all have this little eagle on it, and the caption was essentially to just change the location of the empire, but it's still the same empire. And then I think there's probably a little bit of truth to that, in a sense that there's still the same type of people running the world. Like, these people have always been in control, and they've always had various ways of controlling us. It was religion for a long time, but ultimately, what the main control mechanism now is money and the financial system, right? And so, and this is, bringing it back to what I do. This is one of the reasons that I got into gold and silver, because it's actual real money that they can't directly control and manipulate easily, right? And just to give everybody a sense of what's happening in the market right now, okay? In the last 6 months, gold has gone up 22%, right? It was at 1850, it hit 2250 yesterday. That's $400 difference, okay? And last week, or the week before, I think it was last week, after our show, that silver went up 10%. So these things that are happening in the economy, and kind of tying it back to the open banking thing, so the banks are buying up ungodly amounts of precious metals, everything that they can find. They're emptying everything, and then whenever they have it all, they're gonna be like, "Yo, we really need to go back to a gold standard." Right? Oh, you don't have any gold, bro? That sucks for you, but we got lots of gold. It's no problem, man. And this is essentially what they're preparing to do, right? And so the reason that I keep pushing gold and silver is that it's financial sovereignty, right? Beyond your ability to secure your life, your family, your community with actual physical assets like food and water, I think that's the most important thing by far, which I've already done, which is why I continue to buy more gold and silver. You need the ability to transact with other people. That's how the economy functions, right? And if we're going to save our economy and our country, these are things that you have to think about, because you are one person within millions, but you're an important part of it, because the skills that you hold are what keep society running, right?
Right.
Let me talk about the jab for just a sec, right? One of the risks of the excess deaths that nobody seems to talk about is how many people are losing their lives in important skills, right? Everybody knows about Boeing and all the planes and whatever, but think about the medical system, right? The medical system is universally
It's been
100% devastated. And what happens when those people start losing their lives and those skills aren't replaced, right? And you can think about this as a percentage. Like, what percentage of people in that skill need to lose their lives or not be there anymore before that industry or that skill stops functioning, and more importantly, before to the point where you can't replace it because the people that know all the knowledge can't teach anybody else. Eventually, we're going to start seeing that, and we're
Oh,
already starting to see it.
we are in the airline industry. We had a whistleblower on a couple months back, and the people that are being put into bigger and bigger and bigger planes that got absolutely no damn business being anywhere near those planes, but they haven't got the bodies, the skill set, the expertise. Why? Because they killed them all.
And they retired. There's a whole bunch of people that said
And a
no to
whole
the
bunch,
jab and
yeah.
like, I'm out of
They,
here.
they chose getting out rather than being exterminated. So I mean, that's something that they've really tried to bury the reality of it. And that goes full spectrum. I think all of the critical things that we need are going to be devastated. Our military's policing, everything has been absolutely neutered, and nobody wants to get involved in that, and I cannot blame them. So we are definitely headed down a much less stable trajectory for all of the infrastructures and critical things that we need. So getting doing a baseline assessment of where our skill sets are and where our values are and what we need to keep going, I think is critically important. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to bring up one of the comments here. So, Vanessa88 says silver historically has been 1/16 the price of gold. At $2,000 gold, silver would be $120 an ounce. It hasn't been that relationship or that ratio since before the depression. So since the depression, it's been averaging between 30 to 50 as a ratio. So like one gold coin equal to X amount of silver coins. Now, back in the Roman times, it was set as a ratio at 1 to 12. So in the Roman Empire, one gold coin was equal to 12 silver coins. And one of the reasons the Roman Empire fell is because they inflated their economy. So the silver and the lots of reasons why. One of them was wars all over the place, and they started losing some of their land, so they couldn't get taxes, and so it basically became a doom loop that bankrupted the empire. But one of the reasons that
Then diversity was their solution, and that didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine that. But anyways, so since the depression, that ratio has gone up significantly. And I just did this calculation yesterday, so you could do it yourself too. Gold's at 22.50 right now. Silver is at 22.50 odd, right? And that's basically 100 to 1, more or less. Yeah. It's pretty, it's 96 or 97 or something, right? And typically what happens is when gold starts to push up, silver will follow it, but it'll go faster, right? And so, like I was saying, that silver went up 10% last week. Well, gold went up 1% the same week, 1.5%, right? And so what you see is a lot faster movement, and a lot it declines a lot faster too. So in the last bull run that we had, which was, I think it was 2001, but I can't remember offhand. But the one that I specifically remember for this example was when the U.S. took the U.S. dollar off of the gold standard in 1971. From 1971 to 1980, gold went up 1,100%. It basically did a 12x, more or less, right? Mm. And so that's the type of bull run that we're looking at now. And every possible KPI, every possible number that we could look at in relation to the economic data is vastly worse than it was then. Right. So what I expect now is going to be like the death of the US dollar. That's my personal expectation because of all of this pressure from, the petrodollar, de-dollarization, war, inflation, banking, blah, 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 blah. Right. But what this ultimately means is that if you get in now to precious metals, not only will you protect your wealth, but you'll probably grow it pretty significantly too because of everything that's happening in the market. Now, this isn't financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. And this isn't tax advice either, but this is my prediction that I see coming because of all of the insanity happening, right? And one of the other times that a bull run happened was just after the war because of, well, a variety of things.
I think that's just really just prudent common sense, to be honest with you. For most people, I do want to bring up this one comment here. And Colleen, if there's some more information you can give me, email to me, I'd appreciate that. But says her son works doing mining assessments, and most of the precious metals in uranium are not actively mining because of government restrictions and charges. Most of what's still functioning is financially owned by China. I think that's something that bears further pursuit of information. So thank you for that input, and I'd like to know more.
Yeah, so I went to, like I mentioned before, I went to VRIC this year, so the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, and this was actually one of the things that was brought up, is that what is the problems standing in between us getting at our minerals that we have vast amounts of in Canada, like vast amounts of resources, right? And it basically comes down to lack of investment because of the regulatory framework. If you wanted to create a new mine, you're talking like 10, 15, 20 years to even get the project started and shovels in the ground. Like it's absurd.
Hunter, and that's an interesting side note too, again, to the whole Iceland thing, and I think we need to create a hashtag and a movement, hashtag pull in Iceland, because if we were to do that, all of those treaties and government foreign owned entities and properties in Canada, those agreements would be gone, null and void. Our stuff would be our own again as Canadians. So there's huge incentive in our community getting organized outside of the current system, outside of their reach, and gets talking and sorting out the things that matter, identifying the patterns of corruptions and crimes, and working with like-minded people towards effective solutions.
Yeah,
Damn.
and to the second part of that comment, China has invested vast amounts of money into Canada through the FIIPA, which is essentially the foreign investment something, I can't remember the second I, partnership agreement. And what that allowed them to do is essentially invest in in Canada kind of through the back door. And we've sold off a lot of our resource companies. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we've sold off through that agreement. And if we're going, like I said, if we're going to recover, we need to get rid of the people that are pushing this stuff on us first. And then we have to talk about the ideas and where we want to go. But if we don't have the
Yep.
ability to have those conversations, to put information forward, like this platform that we're using right now, I'm speaking to you, an audience. I don't want that. I want to have a conversation with a collective group of people so that you can push information to me and we can look at that collectively and be like, hey, this is important information. What do we feel about this? What should we do about this information? What are we going to do to fix this problem? Right? If we don't have that capacity and that structure, all of this is for naught because you're limited to what you can do in your physical location, in your physical community, which is important, but it doesn't fix global problems that we're facing, right? And so if we're going to fix these global problems, which I think we can, and I'll reiterate that, I think we are absolutely able to solve these problems because these are just people. They're just people saying stupid bullshit. That's it. We can say stuff too, and it's going to be accurate, right, and backed up by reality, right? Eventually, fundamentals win, right? And if we have the fundamental ability to be like, yo, that's bullshit, and here's why, and here's how, you're lying, get the hell out of here. We
Well,
have the ability to make change.
and if anybody's, for all the followers that are out there, probably have, if you haven't noticed yet, every time I do an interview and a guest now, it's because they are developing something that is a part of something for our future positive.
Mhm.
They're not playing the fantasy game anymore. They're not talking. They're putting their boots behind their talk, and they're walking it. And so there is so much of that going on. We need to get away from this doom cycle, because that's what it is. Because in discover the difference again, take the VR glasses off and find the difference between facts versus fantasy, reality versus fantasy. All of this avatar crap, all of this alphabet insanity is a very small group of absolutely insane people, and we
Yep.
keep feeding their systems that keep stealing from us because we're participating. And that's ultimately, at the end of the day, our own responsibility. Each and every one of us is, do we participate in the fantasy or do we take part in reality? And reality does not happen here.
Mhm.
This is just a conduit, a tool.
Absolutely. And you have the absolute choice of what you do every day. And if you know that somebody is working against your interests, don't work with them. Don't give them your money. Don't give them your attention. Focus your attention on something that's going to do you and your life and your family and your community better. Right. And it's difficult because of how much outsized control. And I was going to bring up a video about this, but I'll have it for next week because to really show everybody how much of an outsized amount of control the Fortune 500 oligarchy, whatever you want to think of, really have over the economy, and it'll show in very stark reality what that looks like. But ultimately, we still have our physical being, our skills, our assets, and our resources that we control, that we can leverage. And the only way that we beat something with that much power and that much authority and that much systems and money and everything else that they have is by being organized, right? That's really what it comes down to. A war is a game of logistics, and if you're not fighting it, you're losing it.
There's no pause taking a timeout in war. You're 100% correct. So much to digest of what we were talking about here today, and you're so 100% correct on all of that. And I can literally use some of the work that we're doing behind the scenes here, not just with What's Up Canada, but creating this coalition at LGM, which is creating an environment. We're getting off of the slave media farm driven on their land, their property, their platforms, and recreating something, a community of authenticity outside of that fantasy world that people are. It's like it's like self-abuse. We continue to go back to our abusers and say, thank you, master, give me some more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So breaking that cycle is the underlying point and motive of everything that I'm trying to do now, is breaking that abuse cycle and breaking up with that relationship. And this has been none of this ended up where I thought it was going to go today, but I'm so excited for this. We shared the link out in the comments for folks to get involved,
Yeah, so this link isn't going to change. So just add it to the Rumble, or all of the platforms or whatever. Just have it in the description,
Yep.
and then this will be basically a collective work environment. So this is something that you can use yourself. This is something that this community can use from now on. I'm going to put all of the information that I added in the previous episodes in here as well, because I haven't done that yet. So I'm going to do that before the next show. And then if you have any questions, so I gave this comment power, so you have the power to comment on here. So I'm going to create an area for questions for the next show, and then we can kind of have a collaborative approach to what we focus on. Because if we focus on something together and force change on that problem, that is real world effect on what we believe and what we say and what we do. Right? Because the system that they built for us does not give us that power or control. Well, we have to make it ourselves. So that's what we're going to do.
100% love that. So what other show, guys, or discussion platform out there has an evolving living platform of discussion on the subject matters of the day? None, except for Bankers, Bandits, Bullion, and Bucks with Bryce, and yours truly, of course. But this is pretty cool, guys. So get over there. The link will be in the chat. Well, this is something, as he said, it's not going to change. You can go in there every day and check up on it. It's going to evolve. It's going to grow, and it's going to thrive and give people access to communicating and directly with Bryce, and staying involved and getting more and more plugged into all of the things that we can use to kick the cabal in the nards. to be frank, Frank can be canceled.
Thank you, man.
All right, Bryce. Been a slice as always. Every day's a new adventure, and I look forward to seeing what comes next. So I'll see you on the board. All right, guys. Interesting conversation. I never know what's going to happen. None of this is scripted. Every day is a brand new adventure. But it's definitely starting to grow a different level of awareness, I think, with the direction that we've been able to start focusing on more where we're going and news related to that, than being constantly stuck in the doom loop. So as much as we're going continue to have hard, uncomfortable discussions, they're all, none of them are in vain. It's all about taking us in the direction that we all want to go, and finding the fastest, best route to sanity again, because insanity is unsustainable. I love you all. Thank you all for taking part. Get on the Miro board. Plug in for some other stuff. We got some surprise stuff coming this week, and bigger, better stuff, and some announcements coming next week. So I love y'all. Stay strong, stay Canadian, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.